Good evening, Habari, and welcome to Cholton Live. My name is Louis Mendez. Hope you guys are all good on your Wednesday evening. This is the big match preview on tonight's show. We will, of course, be looking ahead to Friday evening's home game with Queen's Park Rangers at the Valley and be wrapping up all of the transfer dealings that the Addicts have done in January with the window closing on Monday evening. Joining me to do that and plenty more. First up, top right is Joe Puddyfoot. How you doing, Joe?
Very good. And Jambo to you, Louis. Very, very good. It's been an exciting week on the socials, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen on Friday.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game, big game for the Addicts as we look to try and back up that win against Leicester over the weekend. Joining us also to discuss, bottom right, Tom Wallin. How you doing, Tom?
Yeah, I'm all right. I really wanted to say today I feel Kenyan, but Infantino was the one who started that little trend, wasn't he? And he's not someone I particularly want to associate myself with, but as Joe says, it's been a fun week, hasn't it, on the old social media? And welcome to all our new Kenyan listeners and watchers.
Yeah, it's come out of nowhere, really, haven't they? And also, bottom left, I don't know if Sue's got anything Kenyan prepared for us. How you doing, Sue Gallop?
Hi, no, I haven't. I'm sorry. You all beat me to it.
Well, you've got a nice bit of ugali to feed yourself with.
Yeah, I'm going to get some tomorrow at the African cuisine shop in town. So I'm definitely going to go for that. But yeah, it's just been brilliant. What a great vibe and feeling. It's just I just appreciate reading everything that I've seen on social media. I love it.
Yeah, it's been a funny old week. So as you said, the transfer window closed on Monday. The Addicts got one more deal over the line. Sichenje, a Kenyan defender, is joined from the Serbian side of Vojvodina, is our last signing of the January window. So we're going to go through our signings. We're going to hear from Collins as well. Actually, we've got a clip of some audio of him speaking about his arrival at the club. Talk about the fact that Karoy Anderson's gone out on loan to Blackpool. Some deals that didn't quite happen. We'll go through the squad and see if we think we're where we need to be for this last part of the season. Then, of course, we will look ahead to QPR on Friday. We've got a Queen's Park Rangers fan joining us, Matthew Druitt, from the Hopes and Dreams fan site, is going to join us to tell us a little bit about the R's. We're not going to hear from Nathan Jones today. He's doing his press conference tomorrow, it turns out. But we are going to hear from plenty of you in the chat. Good evening to Mike Salmon, first one in there, saying I'm back again. Honestly, what a transfer the new Kenya player is. We're building a new fan base as well that will help with the merchandise from our store and online. And AE claims to be the first Kenyan to arrive. Hello, world. So good evening to AE and everyone else joining us in the chat. Have your say on our January business. You can email us studio@choltonlive.co.uk. You can tweet us at Cholton Live. Or do what everyone else is doing in the chat at the moment. Give us your thoughts in the live YouTube chat about the signings that we've made. Fellow says that we are here. I think there's a lot of Kenyans in the chat tonight, more than normal, you know, and we have a pretty high percentage of them throughout the season anyway. Mark says if he scores, we've got to name the stadium after him, the Sichenje Valley. So look, he's cult status already amongst some of the supporters out there, Joe. You know, he's obviously a relatively big money signing if the reports out there are to be believed. 22-year-old centre back, has played in Europe before, but obviously hasn't played in English football before. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, well, he's definitely the most well-known unknown prospect to ever arrive at the Valley, is how I would describe him. It's one of those, isn't it? It's a Football Manager-esque transfer. A player that you've not particularly heard of before, turning up at your club from a club that you also haven't particularly heard of before, and so you don't 100% know what you're going to get. But the YouTube clips look very much like he's got a bit of pace about him, which we are sorely lacking in that defence outside of Ramsey. And 22 is a youngster that obviously they think they can improve, which is going to be really exciting to watch and see how he beds in over the coming weeks. But it's one of those. I think it's one of those transfers that you never really know until you're in it. Even some of the League One boys we've seen come up have struggled a little bit to embed themselves. But there's no need to rush him in. We can give him minutes as and when it's right to, and give him opportunities to flourish and to learn. And hopefully he'll be like, Naby Sarr, who came in from further afield and went on to pretty heroic cult status with us as well. So, yeah, excited to see what what he brings. Absolutely buzzing for the social media reaction to everything that he does when he's not in the squad, the protests that they're already talking about, and when he is in the squad and scores, the celebrations that there'll be. It will be one of those where you can't not look. You're going to have to watch very closely at what happens as he beds in at the Valley.
Yeah, I mean, as Isaac says, the striker that Millwall have, Ivanovic, came from the same club, I believe, which is interesting. I guess sometimes people say some clubs have good talent development and that sort of thing. So, I mean, it feels like it's a gamble, Tom, as any sort of relatively big money signing from an unknown quantity will be, which is what he is. For all the excitement we've had this week, which we'll talk about in a few moments' time. There's a lot of Kenyans in the audience asking if he's had any dinner yet. They're really concerned about how much food he's eating over here at the moment for some reason. But now Rustos is getting in on it as well. Has he had enough food? I hope so, because we need him fit and firing, don't we, for the weekend? But it's a risk, it's a gamble. Sometimes these pay off, sometimes they don't. It's a relatively large amount of money, so obviously the scouting network have been out there and seen what they've liked, and you love for it to pay off. It's just whether the step into English Championship level football is too much for him or not, and there's only one way to find out. We don't know that at this stage, do we?
Yeah, and I'll apologise to all the Kenyan listeners and viewers, but I don't know enough about him to know that answer yet. He's not. I don't watch a lot of Serbian football, sadly. So, it's as Joe says, I'm not even sure he's going to start anytime soon, which will be interesting in itself when the lineup comes out. If he does, obviously we'll get to see sooner rather than later. But the defence has needed strengthening. I think that much is clear. Maka has struggled in recent weeks. When Bell's been injured, it's been a problem. Ramsey has had spells out as well with injury and with suspensions, and obviously Burke is injury prone. Bree's gone back. Edwards is out injured. So across that back five, it's been a bit of a struggle. I thought we looked a lot more solid on Saturday, but it was against a poor Leicester team. But obviously Bell coming back was great. Ramsey looked a little bit better because I think he's had a couple of weaker performances, and Jones was Jones. You know what we're going to get from him. But again, he looks like he's been playing through an injury because it's been a couple of games in a row he's gone down holding his foot, and obviously he had to come off the other week. So yeah, so there's a lot to consider here. Maybe he'll feature at some point, and we'll get to have a look. And even if he doesn't settle in straight away, that doesn't mean he's a busted flush either. Sometimes it just takes time, as you guys were saying, with League One players to sort of bed in and get used to it. But all the hype around it's been great. It's been good fun. But ultimately, we need him to come here and do a job. And, we're looking to try and not only survive, but work our way up this division at the back half of the season. And if he can help us do that, brilliant. And we build a cult following, then excellent. But, ultimately, the football is going to do the talking. Yeah, so that's the thing. And if he is in Friday, I'm intrigued to see what he's like in terms of his quality.
Yeah, Paul's saying I'm slightly worried he's eating so much that the rest of the team are underfed now, just judging by the amount of comments we're getting. So I mean, for those of you listening who aren't big on social media, and I mean, you would have to be not looking at social media at all to have not noticed this. So the Facebook page, the Twitter pages, anywhere where Charlton have a presence online, Instagram, they are all now flooded with comments from the Kenyan supporters who it sounds like they support all of their players who go overseas to play. They support them with the same ferocity. I mean, there's people in the chat, Toma, who I believe I'm guessing is a Kenyan, asking who is our rival team. Who do we banter, guys? This is serious. I got some pretty bad news for Toma, actually. Our rival is Millwall. One of them is Palace, local sort of southeast London clubs. And our record against them ain't great. So we ain't really got much banter to be dishing out at this moment in time. But I mean, this is a fascinating point from Ray, another Kenyan supporter, says, for the first time ever, we will be watching a championship game in our local pub. For context, we only normally watch the Premier League, La Liga, the likes of Barca, Real Madrid and Atletico. So it's put Charlton on the map, not a map I was expecting to see us put on, but it seems to have given us a little bit of a cult following out there in one small part of Africa, Sue. And it's certainly been a bit of fun over the last few days. If he goes on to succeed with us, I mean, this could be massive. This could be massive for us. It could genuinely get us a load of new supporters from overseas. If he turns out to be absolutely rubbish, which is a concern, then I don't know what will happen. What happened with Reza? I can't remember.
I'm not sure with Reza, but Mark in the chat's just took the words out of my mouth. It could be like the repeat of Zhengzi. When we had so many Chinese fans coming over to watch us, and I think although he was probably a bit more well known within the world of football, it done such a big thing for the club in terms of bringing up a new fan base of people that wouldn't normally be introduced to our club. I know, having visited some of the African nations, that a lot of the football that's watched over there tends to be the Premier League or La Liga, or like the higher sort of echelons of the football world, not a team like us. So I think anything like this is always a good thing. And I think what I've found so lovely is the passion that they have for Collins, and like you've already said, the passion for the game. And I just feel like that's just going to strengthen us as a fan base. Even though some of them will be supporting from afar, it's still more supporters for our club, and they'll get to know hopefully a bit more about our history, and get a bit more interested in that, and actually see that the fights that we've gone through over the years to bring us where we are now. So I think I can't see this being a bad thing. Like you say, he's a very young lad, and we don't know what we're going to get yet. But I think none of us would wish ill. Sorry, the chat has completely just distracted me.
There's currently a load of Kenyans who've learned who Millwall are, and B, learned what some Charlton fans call Millwall, which I can't read out on this pod. So we'll leave it there. Let's give the people what they want. We've got an interview with Colin Sichenje. When he arrived at the club, he had a sit-down chat with the football club, and this is what Collins has to say on joining the Addicts.
Welcome to Charlton Athletic. We're delighted to have you. How does it feel to be here?
Yeah, it feels amazing to be here. It's a good club with good projects, and yeah, I'm ready to start working.
And you started your career in Kenya before moving to Europe, and most recently playing for Vojvodina. How does it feel to be stepping into English football? Yeah,
it's a big step for my career, and it's a good opportunity to keep working and developing and help the team. So just need to be humble and keep working. That's the goal.
And how best would you describe yourself as a player and your style of play?
Yeah, I'm fast, I'm aggressive, I'm talkative on the pitch. I'm like a leader, so yeah.
And what has the manager told you about the squad and the role he sees you playing in the team?
Yeah, the manager has a lot of faith and belief, so he told me what I need to do, the right things, and I start to learn and adapt quickly, so yeah.
And you've had your first training session today at Sparrows Lane. How did it feel, and what were your first impressions?
Yeah, the first impression is good. The training are intense, good. So the lads are good. Everyone is motivated and good energy, so I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
And you've earned 8 international caps for Kenya. What has that experience been like for you?
Yeah, it's been a good experience to get those minutes in such a young age, and it's helped me to have experience in games, so I have learned a lot from those games, and yeah, just to keep working.
And your first game could come on Friday night against QPR in a London derby under the lights. How excited are you to play at the Valley for the first time?
Yeah, I can't wait to play because I've been looking forward to this, and yeah, I'm ready and to go.
There we go. That's Colin Sichenje speaking to the club after his arrival at the Valley. Tom, do you think he'll play? Do you think he'll actually come in and start playing games quite early? I mean, there's some pretty strong comments from some of the Kenyans in the chat saying if Collins, tell Nathan Jones if Collins doesn't play on Friday, we'll be kicking off. My guess is he doesn't come straight in. Put it that way. I mean, how much do you see him featuring this season?
Let's make it very clear. I'm not picking the side here, so please don't come at me. But no, I'd be very surprised if he starts on Friday night because we've come off the back of a win and a clean sheet. Okay, they missed a penalty, but largely we were defensively sound. So I think if all of the 5 defenders got through the 90 minutes, particularly the likes of Chambers and Clark, who haven't played as much, if they're all fit and raring to go, I think why change it? I've spoken about this for for years and years on the podcast, as everybody, all the listeners and viewers will know because they've listened for years, I've always talked about the consistency in the defence being really important. So you go away from home, you keep a clean sheet and you play pretty well. Why change that? So no, I don't think he'll start straight away. But again, let's see. It all depends on how he is in training. You know, Jones puts a lot of time and faith in in what they do in training and all of that sort of stuff. So if he thinks that it's worth it, and we've got lots of games coming up midweek as well, haven't we? Talked about that a lot. February's a busy month for us in terms of fixtures. So it may well happen. It may well happen. And I'm sure he'll get his chance. I don't think we've signed him just for a novelty. I don't think we've signed him to play for the youth team. I don't think we've signed him for any other reason than we think he's going to make a difference to us. I don't necessarily think he'll come in on Friday, which is obviously going to upset a lot of people, myself included, because I'd like to see him, but I just don't think it will be. But yeah, maybe a little bit later on. I'm sure he's going to get minutes, and I'm sure there'll be injuries. Like that's just the sad fact of how things are.
Yeah, this chat is some of the craziest chat I've ever seen, but there's now people threatening Tom because he suggested that Collins might not start over the weekend. And Chris is saying that all the Kenyans in the chat must refer to me as meatballs. It's a term of endearment. I ain't got time to explain where that came from. On the rest of the Tony's doing it. The rest of the business, Joe, obviously it was a relatively quiet final day because we had that crazy transfer deadline day. That wasn't a deadline day this time last week on the Wednesday night where there was so much going on. But what we did see on deadline day was Croy Anderson went out on loan to Blackpool. We had a little look at Sam Field from QPR, but he ended up going to Norwich on loan. Ian Poveda from Sunderland was a winger, which was a bit of a weird one. But basically, me and Rich recorded our pod on Monday, and we waited quite a while to see if that was actually going to happen because it did look like there was a possibility that one was going to happen, but it didn't. Obviously, Kahim Dixon came back. Mbik didn't go out to Brighton. Another thing that people thought might happen. How are you rating our business overall? You know, now looking at where we are, I say with Croy going out, and I'm not saying that Croy going out was wrong at all. I think that's the right decision. I'm surprised we didn't get another central midfielder in. Obviously, we looked at Sam Field. And then we tried Poveda, who's not a central midfielder, so I'm a little bit surprised by that. But yeah, overall, your view on that January transfer window?
Yeah, for a man who doesn't particularly like playing wingers, Jones is partial to buying one or two, isn't he? Which is a baffling series of events. I think that we've still got. We're definitely stronger off the ball as a result of the window, but I would say we are actually weaker on the ball. I'm not 100% sure that February brings the creativity in terms of actual end product that Apta does. I think he'll probably beat a few more men than him, but that quality of final delivery I don't think is necessarily going to be quite there from the reports you get from Stockport. Obviously, time will tell. And in the middle of the field, we did have obviously Nibs at the start of the window, and we now don't have Nibs, not because he's been sold, but because he's been crocked. So that is an area that is stunningly light. I'm not Anton's biggest fan, so it'll be no surprise to anybody to hear that I'm quite pleased that he's gone on loan because I don't think he's championship standard, especially on the ball. But in terms of players that want to pick up the ball and carry the ball and will cause a problem in the middle of the park, I think we're sorely lacking, especially if Cody is coming in to play CDM, because that will be in place of Coventry, and Cody's not been renowned for being a ball-playing centre-back, so I doubt he's going to be a particularly ball-playing midfielder. So when you take Coventry out and put him in, I think we're going to struggle to control the ball and progress the ball through the thirds, and I think that's been a real problem for us for a long time. But the flip side of that is off the ball. I think we're a bigger, much more combative, more physical unit and team. And if that's what Jones has decided we need to do to keep us up to the end of the season, then that's going to be the recipe for success. And hopefully in the summer, you know, a lot of these guys are loaned. We've not bought players apart from obviously Collins. In the summer, we'll be looking at players that actually improve us as a side in terms of how we break teams down and cause teams problems. Because if we don't address that for the long haul, I don't think that we're going to be staying at championship level for too long. So whelmed is where I'd be. Very comfortable off the ball and very, well, slightly disappointed. I'll go with slightly off the ball.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Some of the comments are absolutely crazy tonight. I'm just trying to share a couple of them. This Kenyan fellow saying Jones will be a rotisserie in the summer if Collins doesn't play. So that's a threat. Jason, one of our regular American listeners, says, as an American, I had no idea this is how I was supposed to react when we signed Kelman. Yeah, you got to pull your finger out there, Jason. There's a lot more that you should be doing when one of your fellow countrymen signs for our club. Yeah, what about Karoy going out, Sue? I think he's looked exposed in the last few games. I think Millwall was the tipping point. But even before that, I think he needs to get out and play a bit of football and work on the aspects of his game that aren't quite championship ready yet. That's not, he's a young player. It's not to say he's not going to come back and if he can get that technical passing ability up to speed where he will be, which apparently was something he was quite known for in the youth teams. Like he's play on the ball, but obviously I didn't really watch the youth teams personally. But there are elements to his game which Nathan Jones really likes, but there are elements to his game which were hopelessly exposed at the Millwall game and the Sheffield United game and other games as well. So hopefully going out there playing with Albie, maybe they'll learn a thing or two off each other.
Yeah, I think like we've talked about Karoy quite a bit, haven't we? And I think some of the fan base were quite sort of puzzled as to why he kept sort of getting picked to start. And I think when it's one of your own, you're desperate for him to do well. And I think actually this is a good thing for him to go out on loan, take the pressure off of him a little bit and just let him try and get back into a mindset where he enjoys his football and does his thing in a lower league. I mean, Blackpool's a great club to go to. They're tough. They've got a good fan base. I think he's really going to thrive there. So I think that's going to be such a good thing for him, as we're seeing with our other young lads that are out on loan at the moment. They're all doing like fairly well. So I always feel like, because we were quite heavy on the youngsters at times, it's nice now that he's being given a little bit of freedom by going out on loan and being able maybe to just have a bit of a reset. So I'll definitely be looking out for the scores for him, because whenever our lads get loaned out, I like to keep an eye on what's going on with them and hoping that they're doing well and getting that confidence that they need to then be able to push on when they do come back.
Yeah. Paul's saying there's some Kenyan wives who may have something to say about some of the comments in the chat. I suspect maybe Parkland's wife, who says, with Collins on board, it's bye-bye to the Championship. I love Charlton more than I love my wife. Hopefully she's not on board as well at the moment. Otherwise, you might have some explaining to do after the show this evening. Miles says, Collins will solve all our problems, defence, midfield and striker, even goalkeeper, if we need it. Mark saying, I'll tell you who is better in the 10, though. Collins Sichenje. I mean, he's outrageous, this Collins Sichenje. He can do it all, can't he? Jay says Anderson going means that Joe Rankin Costello will play more regularly in the rotation now. Doc, Cov and Cody is a solid midfield. Rustos saying it's a great move for Karoy. He lacks the quality for the Championship, but League One bound. Hopefully will build his confidence. Sam reckons we've had an okay window, but feel again way too long to get the signings in the door that we needed. Yeah, I guess that was the conversation, wasn't it, about Chambers, the left back? People wanted him sooner, but as we heard, obviously Liverpool weren't really ready to let him out until the time we got him. They wanted to test he was definitely going to be okay to come out. Tom says, happy with the window. Would have liked to have seen us get a creative midfielder in, though. So yeah, I think that's where I am, Joe. Like, with Anderson going out, I mean, look, I'm a football fan. As far as I'm concerned, I don't care about squad size. I want to have a million players and they'll all be of the highest quality. So maybe it's, we're in a position where this wasn't possible. But like I said, I feel like there could have been one more in central midfield. I thought Doc came in and played well last week. Obviously, Anderson's gone out now. Coventry, in and out over the last couple of weeks with a slight knock by the sounds of it, but he's been good this season overall. And obviously, we've seen Connor Cody play one game there so far against a bad Leicester side, but did well. But in terms of a sort of a creative midfielder, it would be nice to have had one.
100%. I think that's what we've been crying out for a little bit since the summer. You've got Carey, but if he's not doing the business, then who do you bring on? And got Berry, who's very, very clever in some of his movement and the position he takes up. But does he get on the ball, make the team tick, and create opportunities. No, he's the midfield god, and if you want, a sniffer dogging on the edge of the area and penalty spot, just taking up those chances. So it's definitely an area that we have lacked in. I think creativity across the pitch in general has been a bit of a problem. However, saying that, Clark and Chambers, with their crosses at the weekend, have shown that we have definitely improved, definitely maybe a bit strong, but seemingly improved in those wide areas in terms of the quality we're going to deliver into the box, which will help us, especially with the likes of Leeburn and Dykes up top. But not every team you're going to be able to unlock in that way. And there needs to be a bit more creativity. I think that our best midfield is the one that we've yet to see this season, which would be Coventry, ranking Costello and Carey as a 3. I think between them, they could actually have some clever interplay, take up some clever positions and pull teams about a little bit. But we've seen 1,000 different combinations of midfielders this season and not a single second of that. So if we did that, then I'd probably be a little bit less concerned. But we are definitely, I think, overwhelmingly hardworking as opposed to creative. And you can break teams down and win games like that. It's just how many of these teams that sit in a low block will be able to break down. And that has been a real problem for us this season.
Yeah, Ethan's saying there must have been someone given the Collins announcement was early, but the statement from the club came out late. So that was Pervader. We were waiting for that to come out, but obviously we weren't able to get it over the line. We were waiting to see if that deal got over the line, and it didn't. Obviously there was the Sam Field interest by the sounds of it, but he went elsewhere. It looked quite early on that he was going elsewhere. But yeah, Pervader certainly seems to be one that they tried to pick up. Lewis on Anderson saying historically we've been over reliant on our academy players, and that's led to some scapegoating. Karoy needed the loan big time, and we can afford to let him go, whereas previously we wouldn't have. James says, let's be honest, there were probably no central midfielders better than what we had available on loan. Chris telling the the Kenyans joining us this evening, if you do want someone to hate, we are big haters of Burton Albion on this pod. We hate Burton Albion with an absolute passion, and we've always said we never want to go there again. So if you want to look up Burton Albion, that's a great team to hate as well. Ethan's saying no scapegoat in TC. He's been played out of position, but it just goes to show Clark goal, which was chalked off an assist, and Chambers from the wins end product. Much needed. Yes, I mean, when you do look at some of the stuff that's come in, some of the players that have come in over the window, Tom, I'm going down this list. So Clark's come in, Dykes. So Clark's got a disallowed goal and an assist. Dykes has got a goal and an assist. Chambers, did he get he got an assist? Didn't he? The great assist, didn't he, for the Dykes goal? And obviously Brooks and the backup goalie hasn't featured yet. Fevrier's only played about half an hour. Cody did well against Leicester in his first game. We have to reiterate it's only one game so far, but some of these players that have come in have affected so far, and that is important for us. Obviously, James Bree affected when he came in for his first couple of games, but we knew we needed to shake some things up in January. So hopefully, I mean, it's looking good so far. We've won a game. We've had players score goals, get assists that we were struggling with at times this season. So hopefully that will be the business that keeps us up. That's what we have to hope now, because the window's closed. And other than that, it's free agents, and we know what our record is with free agents.
Definitely, yeah. And we said it way back when we were sort of, I think, 7th or 8th in the table, that if we were still there in January, how much would we outlay and really give this season a go? And obviously, the season's then not gone quite the way we wanted, and we've dropped down the table, and now it's just about survival. That had to be the priority. And as you say, everyone pretty much who's been given minutes since coming in January has made a difference. Lyndon Dykes also set up a perfectly legitimate goal at Millwall, which got chalked off. Obviously, wouldn't have affected the outcome of the game. I think we can all agree on that, sadly, but had an impact there as well. But I go back to the point that I made on Sunday's show. I think it was the balance that Clark and Chambers give us, I think, is the most important bit, because Nathan Jones sets up, and he set up since day one when he first came in. He set up with defence in mind and build from that. And obviously our defence was all over the place when he first took over. And he's solidified that, first of all, even with poor defenders. He's then brought in good defenders. And that solidity is what we've relied on. Because as Joe says, we're not creative particularly. We're robust, we're hardworking, and we get games over the line. And all of that is predicated on having a strong defence. And so he's brought in balance. As you say, TC becomes a victim to that, because he dropped out and only got a few minutes on Saturday. he'll still be a big part of our season for sure. But that role doesn't suit him when we're playing away from home against difficult teams. Leicester maybe not a difficult team, but you get the point. So yeah, there's a lot of the season left to play. As I say, a lot of these players are risks. They've come with injury worries and injury concerns, and some of them aren't fully fit. So we're going to need minutes out of all of them. But we do look a lot more balanced. That was the thing on Saturday in particular. We just looked a lot more balanced as a side, and Doc coming back in played a part in that as well. But I think the new players played a part. Cody, Chambers and Clark in particular. That balance just looks so much better. And of course, it's not going to be like that every week. But going into QPR off the back of a win is huge. So, yeah, I'm really pleased with the business. As Joe says, not necessarily glamorous people. We're not getting that creativity that we all wanted. But if it sees us over the line, we will look back on that as a very, very good window. And we can look to build from there in the summer.
Right, Parklands is saying, don't worry about Burton Albion anymore. We'll pick it up from there. So we've inadvertently set the Kenyans on Burton Albion now. And one of the other lads was asking what anthem we go for. Robert suggesting that Addicts to Victory is a great anthem for the Kenyans to look out for. And an interesting fact, the man who wrote that and performed it is currently in prison. So that's a fun one for you. Robert's asking if we've heard anything about the Leicester points deduction. Still no. Again, we spoke to people from Leicester last week and they said, the rumour is it's going to be this week. But we keep hearing that every week, and that's what it looks like at the moment. Still haven't seen anything so far. Obviously, there was some games last night in the Championship as well. Thankfully, Oxford got beat Sheffield United, but Blackburn, as expected, beat Sheffield Wednesday. So the gap down to the bottom three is only 3 points again. So it's getting really, really tasty. So it's a massive, massive game for us on Friday evening. We will look ahead to it in a few moments' time. We'll have a quick break. Then when we come back, we will turn our attention to the game with the Super Hoops.
PSF Steel Limited is a trade supplier of steel fabrication and erection services to the new build, construction and refurbishment market in southern England. With their unrivaled depth of experience, they excel at providing their customers with high quality and cost-effective steel fabrication solutions. Their customers include national and regional house builders, such as Barratt Homes, Bellway Homes, the Vistry Group and Taylor Wimpey. They pride themselves on their service-based ethos and commitment to customer service excellence, which includes full technical backup and on-site services and support. If you would like more information, go to www.psfsteel.co.uk. That's www.psfsteel.co.uk.
Hello fellow addicts, I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer. It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the river. See you soon.
Right, Jambo, welcome back to Charlton Live. This is the big match preview. We're gearing up for Friday evening's big game with Queen's Park Rangers at the Valley. Don't forget, it's an 8:01 p.m. kickoff. All the kickoffs over this weekend are delayed for the Every Minute Matters campaign that the EFL are doing about CPR, so keep a close eye on that. Obviously, something very close to a lot of us after some of the things that have happened at the Valley, of course, this season. Let's look ahead to the QPR game. Delighted to say that we are joined by Matthew Druitt, who's a member of the Hoops and Dreams fan site. Good evening to you, Matthew. Do you have any Kenyan players at Queen's Park Rangers?
Oh, not currently, no. We did have a few a couple of years ago. You're
missing out,
try and get a few more.
Yeah. If you look at our chat at the moment, we've just signed a Kenyan chap, and well, there's a lot of people interested in how he's going to be getting on. We're looking ahead, obviously, to Friday's game, London Derby under the lights. Always enjoy games against Queen's Park Rangers, home and away. Even though our record isn't great against you, but the atmosphere is always good. It's been an interesting season for QPR. Obviously, before we played you early on in the campaign, your last game, just like this time actually, before you played us, was a game against Coventry City. Maybe this sums up quite nicely how the season has gone on, really, because in that first game you lost 7-1 or 7-1, wasn't it? And or was it 7-0? I forget. And now you beat them 2-1 last time out. It's been a remarkable campaign for you guys. How would you sum it up? A bit of a roller coaster?
Yeah, roller coaster. Yeah, there's been times where we've been on good runs, but there's always been results where there's been about 3 or 4 results where it's been like really inconsistent. And we sort of don't know where we're going to judge the season. Our manager has been sort of chopping and changing a lot of the weeks, and he can't find his best team. Injuries have played a massive part. We brought in the likes of Poku. He's hardly started a game. Kone, who's a new striker for us, he's getting adjusting to the level a bit more. And Burrell, who's got us double figures this season, he's out until March. So it's been frustrating at times, but results wise, it's been better. And like you said, Coventry, the previous result, that's a quality we can do up against top opposition, but it's the likes of teams down the bottom that we sort of lack the creativity to get win after win after win. So that's been the problem this season.
Yeah. Hi, Matt. Looking at the results for yourself, like 3 wins and 11 is not a particularly great headline. And then when you look through at the wins, one against Leicester, which on paper is good, but I mean they've not been doing particularly well. One against Sheffield Wednesday, who if you hadn't beaten them, then you'd be in serious trouble. And then obviously the latest one against Coventry, which stands out as a real sort of deviation from the norm. How is the mood in the fan base considering that run? And what are sort of the expectations coming into Friday night's game at the Valley?
I think the mood is okay. I think this season we were expecting sort of mid-table anyway, so we sort of are where we're sort of meant to be. There's definitely potential in the squad to maybe in the summer if we can get a few more additions and maybe try and go for the top 6 next season. But I think this season with the new manager settling in, with the young players that we got in growing even further, we try and give it a go next season. But I think this season is all about sort of consolidation, a steady season, and try and kick on for the next one. And yeah, I think for Friday, I think the confidence will be up after the Coventry game, and I'm sure we'll be trying to go for the win on Friday, definitely.
Hi, Matt. Just curious because you mentioned Kone already, and I think there's quite a few clubs in for him in the summer. Who would you say are your real strong sort of the strongest players in your team at the moment, and what do we expect from your team on Friday?
Strongest players, I'll say definitely our back two, which is Jimmy Dunn and Steve Cook. They've been a strong unit last couple of games, a few clean sheets, and they've been quite impressive. We brought in Ronnie Edwards for quite a bit of money, but he's had to stay patient because of Steve Cook, who's reliable and has got that experience in the Championship, and he's been undroppable last couple of games. Nicholas Madsen, who had a difficult first season for us last season, but he's really grown into the team, and he's been the catalyst to be that number 10 for us to drive us forward up the pitch. And yeah, Kone, he has been playing as a number 10 most of this season behind Burrell, but now Burrell is injured. Kone has been playing in the central striker role, and I thought he had his best game against Coventry. So now I think he can sort of kick on now to get a few more goals and show what he's really about.
Hey, Matthew. Yeah, Kone was one who I don't know if we ever looked at signing him, and he didn't actually do that well against us for Wycombe, but tore up League One last year. So it's interesting to see him making it now at this level. How do you think you'll set up on Friday night? How do you tend to set up playing away from home?
We're normally quite solid, so we're not normally quite expansive away from home. We normally sort of focus on the clean sheet and then sort of try and hit teams at the counter. We normally have the pacey wingers of Sato and Smith on the flanks. Normally have the 2 banks in midfield and the back 4 who are normally quite settled and strong. And that's what I reckon it'll be. Sort of try and frustrate you and then try and hit you on the counter. But I think at home we've been more expansive, trying to go at teams. But I think away from home, the priority has been trying to get a clean sheet and then see if we can nick something on the break. Definitely.
Tom in the chat has just asked how Paul Smith's been getting on. I think you mentioned him just there. I saw a QPR game a couple of years ago against Plymouth. I came a 0-0 game, and he actually looked one of the more dangerous players in that game. And also, as well as him, I just want to ask a little bit about Julian Stefan. Like, how have the fans taken to him this year? Obviously, had a difficult start, but seems to be settled now.
Yeah, he's getting there. He's definitely getting there. He's not changing the team too much as he was at the start of the season. That 7-1 defeat against Coventry was definitely a wake-up call. And to get the first win against you guys was pretty crucial too. We went on a bit of a run after that, beating Wrexham and had 3 wins in a row after that. And we sort of kicked on from there. It's been pretty stable since then. Paul Smith, I think I prefer him off the bench. He has that sort of energy that can go at defenders who are pretty tired towards the end of the match. When he's starting, he doesn't have the same effect, but he can be a dangerous threat. He just causes chaos and he gets free kicks as well. He's quite smart in getting free kicks. Any bit of contact, he goes down. So, yeah, he can sort of be a crucial player for us on Friday, definitely.
Lovely stuff. Well, Matt, it's been a pleasure to have you on. You're from the Hoops and Dreams fan site. If anyone wants to go and read a little bit more about Queen's Park Rangers ahead of Friday evening's game at the Valley. But for now, Matt, thanks for coming on, and I'm sure we'll maybe cross paths again next season, hopefully.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
There we go. Cheers. That's Matt from the Hoops and Dreams fan site who gave us the lowdown on Queen's Park Rangers. Now, I mentioned earlier on, we don't actually have any audio from Nathan Jones today. The Addicts boss not doing his press conference until tomorrow, where he'll be talking exclusively about Colin Sichenje for as long as humanly possible, so the club can clip it up and get as much interaction on social media as well. But before we sort of look ahead to the game itself, Joe, today 2 years in charge of the Addicts for Nathan. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it? And it's been as he said himself, like a marriage. How do you see him now? Like 2 years on, is he what you expected before he came in?
Yes, he was loved and hated, and he is loved and hated. I think it would be a fairly strong sort of summary. I said at the time when we got him, it was the first time in a long time I thought that we'd actually gone and secured a manager who was above our level. And he came in, he's massively worked at solidifying the team. He's reunited us really as a fan base with the guys wearing the shirt, which is no mean feat and absolutely nothing to be sniffed at. And the recruitment that comes in, everyone seems to be great characters, and that underpinning, and I'll harken back really to the Curbed era of bringing in good people who can also play football. It's so underrated, and you've got to applaud him for the work he's done on that. And his passion and his drive, none of that you can fault. I mean, I'm a fan. I want to see a bit more expansive football, and I do want to see at times us take the shackles off. And, after Sheffield United, I want to hear the manager come out and be frustrated that we've not gone on and scored 3 or 4, rather than saying that we're not capable of going and scoring 3 and 4. That's just where I am as an individual. But he will be saying we'll do everything in the right ways and in a measured approach, and you can build and build and build. And we were staring into the abyss of League Two, as Nathan Jones loves to remind us. And we are in the Championship, which he also loves to remind us. And you can't sort of undervalue that turnaround that we've had as a club. And if we can keep building, and certainly if we can take the club onto the next level, which is for me, some more expansive football on the ball, then that's very, very well and good. But he's definitely solidified himself in Charlton history as a phenomenal manager for what he has achieved with the squad that he has had. And I hope that it is something that we can continue to bear the fruits of for a considerable period in the future. However, saying that, if he doesn't pick Collins on Friday, I think that we may have to put a personal security out for him. So who's got to navigate that one first?
Yeah, definitely. Mark says that Nathan's currently learning Swahili as well. If he's anything like me, I've picked up a couple of words already. James says, love him or hate him, it's better to have Jones on your side when lives are at stake, which of course they were after that refereeing decision over the weekend, Tom. I mean, you were predisposed to like him anyway with your Welsh roots, of course, Tom, but he isn't he's such a complex character as a manager. But I guess you do know you're going to get that. He is all in. There's no denying that, is there? He puts his heart and soul and everything else into it. Sleeping at the training ground is just one part of it. You know, he puts his whole personality, his whole, like, the way he feels about things. Like, he's not afraid to express how he feels about things. Where, you know, and that can come out as big disagreements with the fan base at times as well. But, you know, I think you describe it as a love-hate relationship for a lot of people. But what people love is success and winning. And currently, you know, we have got into the championship. We are with our heads above water. You know, maybe not comfortably, but not far off comfortably. If we win 3-4 more games, then we're going to be in a very good position by the end of the season. So we're in a great position to kick on and stay up. It's not guaranteed by any stretch, apart from now, maybe with Collins Sichenje coming in, does change everything. But what have you made of him so far? You know, I'll ask the same question that I asked Joe. Is he what you expected? Because I don't know if I knew what to expect from Nathan, but I don't know if it was this, but this is certainly what we've got, and it's the success part that's the most important thing for me.
It's a more extreme version of what I expected. I knew what he'd done at Luton, of course, but really the most exposure I would have got to him in terms of media was when he got the job in the Premier League. And obviously, to casual fans of the Premier League, which sadly we are at best, given that Charlton aren't in there, you know, the person he was linked constantly to or compared constantly to was David Brent. And I got it, by the way, because I saw some of the things he said, and I'm a big fan of The Office, and, you know, you see it, and it is a bit cringy. But I just don't think that was fair. And he's admitted himself about that time and that stint he had there, about the players' attitudes, and he admitted, I think, himself that he maybe wasn't quite used to that, and I'm sure he would do it differently if he went back now. So I think he was unfairly pilloried for that spell. And so when we got him in, I remember a few of my mates and stuff texting and sort of laughing and joking that we got him in. Whereas actually I was coming at it from a different angle, which was his previous experience at this level, which was, and I think if we go back to the pod after we got him, I probably said something along the lines of, I cannot believe we've got a manager of that caliber. Now, I know he's not Pep Guardiola or anything like that, but, you know, this was a manager that I thought could probably, if he wanted, get a decent championship job. Or someone at the top of League One. And at the time, we were on the cusp of battling relegation in League One. So, no, he wasn't exactly what I expected. But then when I've seen that character come out of him, I absolutely love it. When he winds up our fans, I kind of enjoy it in a weird sort of way. When he is giving it to our fans, you know, when Mick McCarthy, when Ipswich scored once and he was swearing at his own fans, I love that sort of stuff. I love the personality. I'd much rather that than the Michael Appletons who just sit there, because you just know he cares. And the other thing is that it winds other people up. It winds opposition fans up. It gives us an us against everybody mentality. I think that's great. The amount of people after that playoff second leg who were like, oh, he's just doing it to perform, isn't he? He's just doing it because he knew the cameras were on him. Well, one, I don't think that's true. And even if it is, I don't really care, because, you know, as somebody said, he's a lunatic, but he's our lunatic. And when he's your manager, you absolutely love him. I imagine it's what a lot of clubs feel about people like Steve Evans. I can't imagine I would ever feel that way about someone like that. But, you know, there are clubs, he comes in and does a good job, and there are clubs who love him. As I say, I wouldn't. But, yeah, look, I'm delighted at what he's done. The fact that I think he's longest serving, isn't he now, since Boya? And that speaks for itself. You know, to get that amount of time in the current climate of managers, and with the turmoil we've been through, I think speaks for itself. He's done an absolutely fantastic job. I think he'd like to have done slightly better this year, and I'm sure he would admit that too. But if we stay up, that was objective one. I'm sure that's what the board told him to do. And if he does that, great. And he deserves some more time to try and build on that. We've never really had a proper bad spell under him. We've had rocky patches. But I'd be very interested to see how I'd feel coming on this pod when for the 5th or 6th week in a row, he's saying the sorts of things that he says if we'd lost. And that's the big question, because we haven't quite been that bad yet.
Well, I'd argue that 1 in 9 was a bit of a spell, wasn't it? I mean, that after the Crawley game, there were people calling for his head, you know, and I think that was when it really turned, and he was more on the defensive. He wasn't really saying anything other than, you know, the fans were entitled to think what they think, sort of thing. Although, you know, only took a couple of weeks before he was back on the attack again as well. Some interesting comments. Will says, I think a weakness of Jones is not giving enough context with regards to team selection. Sometimes, if he did this more, fans might back him more consistently, even if they don't always agree. Mark saying 2 wins in 14 was a pretty bad patch. This is a championship with injuries, though. It's kind of on a par. And I'm not sitting here saying I've enjoyed it, but I'd say 1 in 9 in League One was a lot worse. Dudley says, I'd like to see some better football, but I think he's a great character. Cameron says, the people who think he acts for the camera must not have been watching us in the paint trophy. Consistently mental. Yeah, like when he got sent off against Bromley for kicking the ball on the pitch. That was quite funny. Tom says, don't forget he beat Pep Guardiola, so technically he's better as well. Jay says, when Nathan was announced, I felt the club finally got it right 2 years later, and I can't believe how much he's done for this club. Different Jay says that you can see a proper football identity now, structure, standards, and players who know their jobs. Not perfect, but there's a direction previously lacking. It's a structure for me. Like I've said it on this pod before, but I'm an absolute loser when it comes. I love clean sheets more. I think I like clean sheets more than I like scoring goals. Because it's such hard work to be consistently defensively structured and sound. And when he took that, with all due respect, football team that he inherited and turned it into an actual football team that could defend and do stuff like that, that was some really good managerial work. Tom says he's our lunatic. He's a lunatic, but he's our lunatic. As Chris says, people will love or hate him, but he's a proper manager who cares about the club. It's hard to ask you this question, because you know him a little bit better than the most of us. Isaac said his highlight was when he asked me if I was a Charlton fan. Yeah. A few weeks ago, but you know a little bit about, I don't know, the heart and soul that Nathan pours into the job. I'm not going to ask you if you're surprised with how well we've done, because you said it from day one.
Yeah, and I don't like to say I told you so. And yeah, there's always going to be wobbles. I don't think if any manager would have had wobbles at our club, it's never plain sailing. And I feel like he handles things all right. Yeah, some of the comments, he's an emotional guy, and we know he speaks with so much passion, and sometimes maybe take a breath before you speak. But I think it comes from his heart, and it comes from the right place, because he does desperately care so much about the club. And he wants to make the club successful, not just for himself, but for the club. He loves the club so much. And I think he takes a lot of pride in the fact that he's done this 2 years. And I know he raised it a couple of weeks ago in his interview post-match, like the position we were in when he took over, and then again last season when we was having that bad run, and we were talking about how close we were to getting relegated, and he got us in the playoffs and we got promoted. I think he is, strangely, sometimes he thrives off of that, not negative commentary so much, but that it spurs him on to be able to like go. It's almost that like, I'm going to prove you wrong. And I think part of that comes from just how he was as a player himself, but also the experiences that he had at Stoke and Southampton. Because again, like Tom's alluded to, it was almost like a bit of a joke when he signed for us, and those fans were giving us so much stick about the fact that we'd signed him as our manager. And I think our fan base, some of them were a little bit wary about it as well, because of what they'd seen happen at Stoke and Southampton. But my argument was that both of those clubs were in such a poor state anyway. It would have taken, well, more than Pep Guardiola to get them out of those messes that they were in at the time, because I think player power kind of ruled in those situations. I don't know what happened, but I don't think anyone could have done any better in those circumstances. So I've always made my feelings clear from the start when he signed. Like you said, I felt ecstatic that he was our manager, and I still feel the same now. And I think he just reflects our feelings for our club perfectly. And we needed that, and the players needed that. So yeah, I'm never going to be negative about Nath.
Yeah, Alan says he's our John Cleese. which I can sort of see. Yeah, maybe the funny walks down the touchline at times. Rostos says, fair play to him on the 200 games. I think he's mental, but if we stay up, then that's all we need. Jay says his biggest impact over these 2 years isn't the results, it's the culture and a change in the players' culture, which, yeah, I do see that. I do see that as a big thing. Norm says it's a great opportunity with 3 home games coming up. West Brom on the horizon too. Chambers and Dykes had a good game Saturday, as did Godden second half. Yeah, well, obviously we've still got to look ahead to QPR properly. We've got a few more minutes to do that. And Steve saying the progress the club have made from bottom to top is massive under Nathan Jones. I dread to think where we would be had the club not appointed him. So Queen's Park Rangers, as we heard from Matt, coming up on Friday evening, Joe. I mean, this is a big game. So, as Norm just said, there's 3 home games in a row now. If we get 6 points from that, I'll be buzzing. If we get 5 points from that, that's not a bad return. Portsmouth is, I think, the third of the 3 in a couple of weeks. It's weird. We've got no Saturday games for a couple of weeks now because obviously we're a Friday night. Then we've got the Saturday off, but then we've got a couple of home games, haven't we? It's weird. It's weird how it plays off on like a Tuesday and a Wednesday or a Wednesday and a Tuesday. So it's a bit odd, but they're 3 massive games. The Portsmouth one, and if we can win that, that would be massive. If we can win Friday, that would be massive. If we can get 6 points from this, that'll be a good run. Team news. Obviously, we haven't heard from Nathan this week yet. Obviously, Lee Byrne came off with his shoulder issue. We don't know how serious that's going to be over the weekend. Connor Cody, is he going to be in defensive midfield again? There's all these little question marks. I mean, obviously, the big one is Colin Sichenje going to start and play 90 minutes. That's what everyone really cares about. But, I mean, how do you see him going with the selection on Friday evening?
Yeah, I think he's going to play Collins 11 times and everyone else can sit on the bench and enjoy it. But if they sit in, I think we're going to need we're going to need a little bit more creativity in the team than we had because obviously just if they're in a low block and we're whipping crosses in and they've got a very comfortable back two, then it's going to be a long old 90 minutes, especially if they don't want to hit us on the break because Cody is not necessarily blessed with pace. Not particularly is Coventry either, but it's just going to be a bit of a challenging day all in all. So hopefully there's a little bit more creativity. I'd like to see JRC come back in. I think he's been brilliant whenever he's played of late, and I don't understand why he's not, starting every single game. I would like to see Coventry come back in because I think he makes us tick in that midfield position, and hopefully we can take it to them. And I do think that we need to pick up, as everyone's saying, a couple of wins, particularly one of them being against Portsmouth. Because I think if you get 6 points, but then you give Portsmouth 3, depending on what the other results are, that's maybe less attractive than picking up 6 points and 3 of them being against Portsmouth. So, yeah, that's what I'm looking at coming into the weekend. And I just hope that if they do sit in a low block, that we've got over the travails that we had, particularly against Sheffield United, where they were just sat in and we were really struggling to find ways to pick them apart. And if Lee Byrne isn't fit, I'd probably like to see TC got top again, just for that creativity and that little bit of spark that he does provide you up there in terms of beating a man and creating opportunities. But I'm very, very confident that he's probably going to pick an unchanged team because Nathan is loyal to teams that win and ultimately picked up 3 points.
Yeah, the only thing, like I say, we don't know about Lee Byrne because his arm was in a sling. I mean, my shoulder goes all the time, and I could genuinely play the next week. But if it's a proper bad shoulder, then I don't think they'll risk him. So if that is the case, Tom, does Godden start? If we look lively on Saturday up at the King Power, is there anyone else you'd rather start? Obviously, Kelman's still out and about. The former QPR duo of Dykes and Kelman up top on Friday night would be an interesting one.
I think there's a young Kenyan you're forgetting who might fancy a stint up front. But no, I thought Godden looked great on Saturday when he came on. I'd like to see Lee Byrne and Dykes, which I wouldn't have said 2 weeks ago, but I was very, very impressed with them on Saturday. So if they're both fit, I would go with them again. And I totally agree with Joe. I think, one, you don't change a winning team, and Jones definitely doesn't. Secondly, but yeah, if you are going to make a change, I feel really bad for Kelman in this, by the way, because he hasn't really done a lot wrong. But I just think Godden looked sharp. Obviously got his goal that was chalked off, but it was a really, really well taken finish. Good movement, pressed, worked hard. I could see him, having a good impact as well. And the fact that whatever happens, we're going to have the likes of TC and probably Kelman or Godden on the bench or Lieburn is great as well. So we've got so many options. So if we are up against it or struggling, come the back end of the game, we can chuck a load on and give it a real go there as well. So, yeah, I would expect it to be unchanged. If there is a change, I would like to see Godden in from the start. I don't think he's had a start as of yet since he's come back from injury, so that would be worth a go and see how he gets on. But as I say, I feel like it's a bit harsh on Kelman. I see Rustos saying he's gone missing the last 3 games. I don't think he's really had a chance. I think it would have been a very different story if he played against Leicester, for example. But we'll see. Yeah, exactly as Mark says, Godden's movement and the sharp finishing, he's absolutely right. It did look good. And we've missed him, haven't we? We've said that for a long time. So I think it really just depends on Lieburn.
I've still not seen that disallowed goal against Leicester for Godden. I was looking away at the time and I haven't seen a replay at all. So still have no idea what happened there. Right, we're going to leave it there. We've gone over time. That's been a fun show. So thanks to everyone who's joined us this evening. Don't forget, so we're going to be back on, because it's all over the place this weekend, because we're playing Friday. We're going to come back on Saturday morning instead of Sunday. But we're also going to be at a slightly earlier time of 9 a.m. rather than 10 a.m. So join us Saturday, 9 a.m. on YouTube to look back at the Queen's Park Rangers game. And then the week after, I need to work out where we're going to be because we've got a midweek game. Then so I think we'll just be the normal Thursday, but then we might not be there the Sunday after. But I'll tell you when I've worked it out. But yeah, 9 a.m. on Saturday morning if you want to look back at the Queen's Park Rangers game with us. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Those of you who've joined us new today, feel free to hit subscribe, where we'll be talking about Colin Sichenje every week without fail, I'm sure. But yeah, make sure you join us for that. Joe, Tom and Sue, thanks for your time this evening.
Cheers all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Lovely stuff. I'm going to leave the final word to Caleb, who appears to be a new listener and has told us the things that he has gathered from Charlton Live this evening so far. Basically, Millwall and Crystal Palace are our main rivals. We also hate Burton Albion, and Nathan Jones is the current head coach of the mighty Charlton. The club is safe with him as long as he plays Colin Sichenje at every game. Lovely stuff. Right, that's Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. As I said, don't forget, we'll be back on Saturday morning. I'm Louis Mendez. We shall see you then.
Charlton Live.